and we'll get this party started. So what I thought I would do today is I thought we would go through, just out of curiosity, have you people already done all of your questions? Have you completed the survey on workers' compensation?
For the assignment, the newcomer?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I've submitted mine.
Okay. Have any of the
Yeah,
rest?
I'm just working on the conclusion and the summary, but then I have all the questions ready.
Sure. Okay. All right. Well, I thought what I'd do, and you guys can give me some feedback, is just to look at some of the types of questions you might want to ask. And so on the PowerPoint slides, which I'll share in a second, or you can actually should be able to see, is things like, are people aware? This survey is mainly to find out what people are, what they know and what they don't know. Hello, Chantel. And, hi. Are they aware of first of all, there is such a thing as workers' compensation, and ensure that the worker receives these kind of benefits, first aid treatment, benefits while at home. These could be some of the types of questions you might have asked. And by the way, if you've already submitted it and you want to, after our discussion, I'm sure that if you've come up with the 10 questions, there might be somewhat similar to this, but I thought we would take a bit of time and do that. So do you know who administers it? Paying off medical bills. There's a whole bunch of questions you can ask. What happens, disability pension that becomes permanent? It's for life. It doesn't stop when you're 65 or when you, quote, stop working. So there's a disability pension. And also part of it, and I think it's important to realize that part of the benefit is if you can't earn the same amount of money you were before, that's important. If somebody is making $60,000 a year, and then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, they become disabled and they can't make the money they were before, and they can make less money, then there could be the top up. So the person went from 60 to say 40, and then they can recoup the difference. So you can see the jurisdictions, right? You have the economic loss, obviously, when you have lost earnings. And a non-economic loss. This could be things that you can't do. Let's say you've injured your back, and so you can't pick up your kids or your grandchildren or things along this line. So if they're able to perform some of the things, unable to perform some of the things that were able to before, are these kind of the questions you people were looking at from this chapter along the lines? Are you aware of this? Did you know this? Is that what you were kind of doing?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, if they know the responsibilities in the workplace regarding safety and all that.
As you're aware, this is the first time I've taught this course, and I took this assignment to be very much just finding out, not trying to educate people on what the workers' compensation was, but trying to find out what people understood or didn't understand or misunderstood about the information, like about workers' compensation. Just like, I guess to a degree, I know some of you have more experience with workers' compensation than others. And so some of you might have had partial information about workers' compensation and perhaps didn't realize, oh, you can actually get a permanent pension or something along this line. So filled in maybe some of your own personal gaps that you may or may not have had, depending on your experience. Of course, I think one of the things that's very important is rehabilitation. And you can see it's not just for vocational rehabilitation to find similar work elsewhere, physical rehabilitation. And if anybody in this room has been physically disabled because of a workplace accident, that can be quite difficult. And then there can be social rehabilitation, as you can see, for psychological aspects and coping with the disability. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's fun to sit in a wheelchair and go up and down the hallways and have a wheelchair race, but to be permanently in a wheelchair is probably not so much fun. Or to have headaches from concussions and things along this line, or to have a physical disability that because of a loss of a limb or something like that, that people feel different and not the same as what they did before. Stress. All right. And things along this line. So allergic reactions to certain things. So, and sometimes, especially as young people, all right, especially as young people, some of these things may not seem like such a big deal. But one of the things I have found as I've gotten older, when I was young, I eat what I want, wasn't really sensitive to things like different foods or different environments. But as I've gotten older, oh yes, I've certainly noticed. I've certainly noticed the difference, and you people may also. So, in a workplace, if there's certain toxic chemicals, or I've worked in places that you had to wear masks, that there was, in essence, you could smell it. It was because they used chemicals for dissolving. They used chemicals for dissolving minerals, and it could be quite acidic, and we would be in a tank with lithium. Oh, sorry, cadmium, not lithium, with cadmium all day without a mask on. I don't know if those people have to wear masks these days, but back then we didn't. And then, of course, sometimes there's a latency period. There's a lag. So again, you have the three levels: physical, mental. Mental stress causing a physical disability, which could be like a twitch or something along that line, something that physically affects, or trauma, or shaking of the hands, or whatever the case would be. And then mental stress causing a mental condition, where people, if they've been in an accident, they may have a negative reaction. So sounds like you people have done a good job of getting this right done. We don't know the assessments, experience ratings. I can't see that. Oh yes, reporting requirements. Did anybody include something like this in your survey? The reporting requirements? It's fine if you don't. I'm just asking. And I'm sure you can appreciate why. Because sometimes employers may decide not to report certain things, correct? We see this on the news. It's just not a big news story sometime where this company failed to report this. And it goes beyond just workers' compensation. There was a hotel in Saskatoon for many, many years, was the waste from the raw sewage from the hotel was going directly into the river. Wasn't going through the treatment plant. So there could be heavy fines for stuff like that. So if you don't report the injuries, there will be penalties and fines for basically trying to, lying about it, or even not reporting the injuries. Okay, so how did you find somebody to talk to, by the way? Because one of the students this morning was asking about that. was asking about, they say because they're quarantined, or they're isolated. I can't remember, but they were having difficulty. So what were the types of people that you approached? Was it easy to find somebody?
It was fairly easy for me just because, well, you made it easier by saying it doesn't have to be a newcomer to Canada. It can be somebody that hasn't been in the workforce for a certain amount of years. So that made it easier. So I ended up finding somebody actually in my family that hasn't been working for a number of years.
Okay.
Yeah, me too. I just did my mom's friend because she hasn't been working
Okay.
for a long time. So yeah.
Okay. So that little change was helpful, right? It made the assignment easier to do.
Yeah,
Yes.
because
Excellent.
all the students that I know, they all work, right? So I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, even if this was like the regular classroom, I think sometimes, depending on your personal situation, it may be difficult to find somebody who is new to Canada or is new to all of this or hasn't worked for a while and been out of the workplace. And so I'm glad that that made it simpler and easier. Did you like the assignment? Was it, oh, I liked doing this assignment. I learned something from it.
I didn't mind forming the questions. That was like probably my favorite part for me was thinking of the questions, but interviewing the person, they like really didn't know anything about WCB. So
Okay. How would you use that moving forward? Let's project here. You graduate from Red River College. We'll assume that you go into HR or health and safety or it's part of your job. How would you use the fact that what you learned?
I think I would probably, well, I definitely used it in my conclusion, and just because I think most people in Canada aren't really fully aware of what their options are when it comes to workers' comp and health and safety and stuff like that. So I think to be able to maybe push people to get educated on it would be important.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else want to add some of their observations on it? So go ahead, Viviana.
With, I was just gonna say with my interview, she did because we talked because she used to work in Mexico, right? So we talked about more how is like safety in Mexico and whatever in the workplace. And it's not a lot of difference. They do have like same like the policies and everything. They do training as well, but it is different. Like I feel like in Canada they care more about their employees, some businesses, and there is just like whatever, like we'll pretend that we have stuff, but it's not gonna be followed, you know?
No, excellent. You brought up a very good word too, Viviana. Thank you both for participating. And again, participate to whatever level of comfort that you want. You brought up a very good word, training. I'm not sure, like I've received safety training, but in that safety training, they talk about more about don't do this or wear this equipment. Not so much, where the eye wash stations, and we're going to be talking about coming up WMIS and stuff along that line. So like dealing with hazardous materials. So, but there wasn't necessarily discussion that I really remember, and maybe it's just because I've been not working in industry for a few years. Talks about I do remember you have the right to refuse. Now, in all my years, right to refuse work because you think it's unsafe. In all my years and experiences, I personally have never done that, but I've also worked very much in office settings. So that would be part of the reason. When I worked out in the plant as a summer student, there were dangerous situations, and the there was the bosses were really good at saying, you just mentioned that people didn't care in Mexico, that you're just replaceable. But they made, especially to us summer students, don't do anything that's going to cause you like long-term. This is our job. You're just here for a few months to make a few dollars. And don't do anything. Don't take a risk to and get injured where you'd be permanently injured. And there was a student many years ago, long time ago when I was a student at the mine, and he one day decided that he was going to step over this conveyor belt, and he slipped. And some very bad things happened to his leg. All right. And he still, to this day, will be, permanently disabled. And so, to make sure that people are aware of that, the right to refuse, the right to there are dangerous jobs out there that just need to be done. And you accept that hazard, but it needs to be reasonable risk. So if you are the person in charge, I think Viviana brought up a good point in the training. You need to make sure that people do training programs on this, and keep track of that, and perhaps update people on maybe once or twice a year, have an hour or two meeting about safety and anything. But it should be an ongoing thing. Would you agree with that? That safety training and improvements and changes should be an ongoing type of activity? Or do you think it should? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it should be ongoing and updated as the years go by.
Mm-hmm. And what would you do, just out of curiosity, this is sort of more of an HR question, what would you do with a supervisor who didn't really care, pushing their employees to do unsafe practices?
I think you have to ask them why, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
Figure out what their thinking is around it. Because you can't just go up and fire somebody, or else that'll come back on you.
That's very true. Yep. And let's say this person is one of those people that have been there for a long time, and they're just really stuck in their ways. This is the way we used to do it. Oh, health and safety is for wusses. Health and safety is not important. What do you do with a person like that? It does happen, people. What would you do? I know it's more of a HR question.
I think you have to offer them the option for training for the knowledge that they need to know. And if they are still reluctant or don't want to do it, then I think that's grounds for termination, or maybe a demotion to a position where they're not watching over people that are working.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else want to toss in their comments, their thoughts? Yeah, you have to be careful. But again, if you're just paying lip service to occupational health and safety, yeah, everybody's gone through this, blah blah blah. But if you have where it's in the workplace, where say you have a manager who's been there for a long time, this is the way we did it. I push my employees, they're getting hurt. Those employees can sue you, right? Those employees will leave, which is costly to the organization. And your workers' compensation is going to be high. There are financial consequences to that. You can't just use the phrase, I've been here 20 years and this is the way we used to do it. Oh God, the way we did things 20 years ago, or some of the things we did years ago would not be acceptable in today's world. And it will continue to evolve. All right. So we did not quite finish chapter number 4 the other day. So I'm going to share the screen with you on this. So let's do that. Thank you, by the way. We were just talking about this. Safety awareness, even having awards and incentive programs, housekeeping programs. Does anybody know perhaps what a housekeeping program might look like? You've actually experienced it in your home, probably. Does anybody know what this might refer to? What has housekeeping got to do with health and safety? I know because the mine implemented it when I was there. Anybody want to hazard a guess? You've all experienced it. Has anybody ever tripped over a cord?
Yes, or like a mat or something.
A mat, a cord?
Did that the other day.
Okay. Are you okay? Are you going to sue anybody?
No, it just scared me.
Okay. All right. I'm sure you can appreciate that even in a home setting, that if somebody has like a vacuum cord or electrical cord or something along that line, or things sitting on a ladder that could fall, that those are potential hazards. You have workplace health and safety in your home. You have spills. And so in the mining company, one of the things they did was they did it in sort of two ways. One was for housekeeping, making sure that we had all kinds of hoses, especially one place we had all kinds of hoses, we had equipment. Housekeeping can be making sure that your equipment is properly cleaned at the end of the day and oiled in some cases. So the next day that somebody goes to use it and it's not malfunctioning and causes an injury. So housekeeping are things like making sure the spills are cleaned or there's a warning sign. You've seen this in the grocery stores or in, in particular. So, and yeah, next time you trip over a mat or a cord or something along that line, that's part of the housekeeping. And so there are other aspects to it also, but part of it is safety. If there's a wet surface, there's been many people who've slipped on a wet surface because it wasn't labeled, there was no warning, and if they had seen the warning, they would have been more careful, they would have gone around. So, and again, things like preventive maintenance. You want to make sure that the equipment is operating properly. Some of these pieces of equipment, I'm sure you can appreciate very easily, can cause very significant injury to a person if they're not working properly. I mean, Viviana, you said you work at McDonald's. Might seem, quote, from the outside, a very safe place to work, but I can see a lot of dangerous things. I know somebody who I'm very close to who works at McDonald's. That is not the safest job, depending on where in the store you're working. Hot grills, grease, things along this line. Even the machines for dispensing some of the product.
Yeah.
So, right. PP&E, personal protective equipment. So companies will pay attention to, I know that one of the companies I take my students on a tour of, they will go to the vendor. They do it for two reasons. One is for a cost reason and one is for an employee reason. You will tend to find over time that reducing costs can also very much be of benefit because workers aren't getting injured. A new pair of gloves is that lasts longer, that the person's not getting injured, is way less expensive than the fact that the glove isn't satisfactory and it slices through the glove, slices through the person's finger, and now the person is off on workers' compensation. That getting a proper glove, even though the proper glove is thicker and perhaps more expensive, providing the proper equipment is actually normally a lot less expensive than having people go off. Oh, you got your toe got smushed because you weren't wearing steel toe boots. Well, steel toe boots are too expensive. No, they're mandatory, and to be serious about it. Right? Like I said, I've taken my students on tours and stuff like this, and there's certain places they will not allow. They won't say, "Oh, it's okay for 5 minutes. Come on over." You know, yeah, come on over. Oh, you don't need safety glasses. Then a piece of metal comes flying away, or we have to wear hearing protection. One of the tours is a machine we stand beside. We're fortunate we take headsets, but one of the machines we stand beside is louder than a jet engine, and it can cause hearing loss. And hearing loss does not recover. It's not like, oh, it's getting better. No, once you've lost it, it's gone. So things along that line. We wear safety glasses. We can't go to certain parts of the plant, and things along this line. And yeah, we have to wear hearing protection for the tours. So fortunately, our headsets serve as better protection than those little foamy things. All right. One of the ways to look at this, and I mentioned it before, they call it factoring out or engineering out the human factor, right? So you have the dip tank, the fumes, and it goes to the person. So they sniff the paint fumes from the dipping tank, whatever it is, whatever kind of chemicals and stuff are in there. So you also have to pay attention to proper ventilation. It has to be properly ventilated. The quality of the air. When you're walking around a plant all day long, you're inhaling this stuff. Fine particles of whatever it might be. So one of the ways to look for potential hazards is to do source, path, and human controls. What would be some of the ways you would deal with this? If there's fumes coming off the dip tank, what are some of the ways you could potentially deal with it?
Protective equipment.
Right? Yes, for the employee, right?
Yeah. And make sure it's in a well ventilated area.
Exactly. You don't see too many people wandering around with protective equipment on their faces all of the time. I mean, look how people are. Some people are literally fighting against wearing a mask because of COVID. I don't want to wear a mask. People are getting arrested and fined for it. They won't wear a mask. People find them uncomfortable. So, if you were just Viviana, I know like where you're working, and anybody else who wants care to share, you're having to wear a mask at work now, right?
Yeah.
Probably not. You're probably looking forward to the day that you don't have to wear the mask anymore.
Honestly, I'm getting used to it and it doesn't bother me at all. Like
Okay.
at the beginning, everyone was complaining about it and it was kind of like not comfortable because of course we weren't used to it, but like now it's like I don't even care, honestly. I can just wear it all the time.
Okay. No, good.
Just because I do it every day and I'm used to it and it doesn't bother me. So.
All right. And thank you. And there will be people. They were talking the other day about we may see, even after this all calms down, whenever that is, we may see some people who just regularly wear masks. Just becomes part of their routine, and that just becomes what they do. They just put on a mask. They go out and they wander around, and when the pandemic subsides. And the other thing too is like not with in this case fumes and stuff, but like personal protective equipment could be a hairnet, etc. So yes, you need to identify the source, the path, and by the way, some of the hazards could be audio, like noise, and then what's the what's the recipient or of the hazard? Employee is the recipient in that case. You need to monitor. You need to be constantly diligent about hazards. You need to audit and identify anything new. Businesses are not static. And, just like I believe, yes, all of the schools, U of C, MRU, and Red River have had people come on site who afterwards have tested positive for COVID. I'm pretty sure of that. The only one that hasn't is SAIT. And yeah, but you need to audit that. Just like, are they doing this in Manitoba? Because it might be a bit different. If you go to a restaurant, are they taking, like, say, your name and phone number?
I don't know. I haven't been out to a restaurant in like months.
Okay.
Sorry, what was the question?
If you go out to a restaurant, are they taking your name and phone number?
No.
All right. Here in Alberta, a lot of restaurants are. In case they find out later that somebody had COVID, and they will announce those people. They're trying to track it as best they can.
That's a good idea. But here it's just like, because I had a person that had the virus and was here at my house.
Mm-hmm.
So then what happened is health links or whatever will contact every single person that they had contact with.
Mm-hmm.
Because they will ask the person and be like, where do you go, or blah, blah, blah. And then they will let the people know.
Mm-hmm.
They will get their names and they will call them. But I
Mm-hmm.
guess for a restaurant, they'll be better if they do that here as well, because they can just tell like, oh yeah, in general, yeah, someone has been exposed here, but we don't know who. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess that'll be a good idea. But yeah, they're not doing that here.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The schools are. I would be surprised. I don't know because I'm not there, but I would be surprised. Most of the staff at Red River College are working from home, but there will be on occasion people who go actually to the campus. I would imagine that they're keeping track of who that is. I know that if I were to go, my full-time employer is SAIT in Calgary. If I were to go onto the campus, I have to apply and explain why I'm going on campus. And it has to get approved. I have to go at a certain time. And I think I have to be escorted around or something like that. It's really restrictive. In fact, at one point, if you go at SAIT, if you were to go onto the campus without permission, they have threatened to fire people. It's that serious. There's nothing on the campus that I need. I've got everything that I worked from home before this started. So, and again, doing audits is the point. You need to show that you are doing audits and that you are measuring things like safety programs and lost time injuries and all of those calculations, frequency of injury, what types of injury. All right. You need to keep these records. Can't just go if you go, you might just think it's simple. If you walked around your plant to see safety hazards, you need to record that. I would imagine these days you would probably even take pictures and things along this line and document that. And whoever's in charge, somebody in your organization, if it's any decent size, is going to be responsible for this record keeping. So when occupational health and safety people come along, they say, I want to see your records. We don't have any. Oh, you will be in so much trouble. A world of hurt. You need to keep records on this. And of course, right? So, I didn't quite finish the other day. So, any other questions or comments for me?
No. Do you know when the first quiz is going to be for this class, or you don't have a date yet?
Good question. Let me check. There are no quizzes.
No quizzes?
Yeah, I remember I asked Paul the same question. There's just a midterm and a final.
Oh, okay.
So you've got the assignments. You've got the assignments. And a midterm and a final. I remember I asked him that. He said, oh, yeah, there's no quizzes. Oh, right. So.
David, I have a question.
Sure.
I'm just finishing up my case study. Was there a due date for that, or I passed the due date for that, or?
Just submit it today.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then
I'm going to be very flexible on stuff like that.
Okay.
Especially at the start of the course.
Okay. And also the assignment too, it doesn't have to be in a group, like a group of 2 it's asking. Can I just work on it myself?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And I believe and what I'll start to do is I'll start to put the due dates in the Dropbox like I did this morning. So,
Okay.
yes. So I'll edit that. So, yeah, and I do write this down. So just let me I do write this down. Because I have to keep track of this myself. So management 3005. All right. Maybe it's on a Wednesday. Yeah. No, I'm just keeping track of the. Yeah. Yes. Oh, yes. September 28th is the first assignment. So you're actually a couple days ahead. All right. So you're all good. So does anybody have any questions about the assignment, the survey?
No.
Oh, because I do have a question before we go today. I said, Paul has told me he's only teaching half of the time. He says he wants to give class time for students to ask questions. Now, again, he has 30 students in his class, and he's got multiple sections. That's a little different than teaching. It's a lot different than teaching 9 students, especially since you people are all above average, right? You're all above average, right? Yes? Of course you are. So I see that 4 people have submitted their assignment. So let me go in. All right. Under course content. Oh, yes. Yep. Assignment 1 was actually due yesterday, but I'm fine with that. No, that's fine. You're not the only one. I'm going to be as flexible as I possibly can. And you're not the only one in this situation. I'm not just doing it for one student. All right. And the next one, it's the survey of a newcomer is due October 8th. It says right in the heading. So yes, it was due yesterday. So. So. When it comes to this particular course, or both of the courses, this is week 4. Are you pleased with what we're doing? Does this seem like a reasonable pace? Does it seem like it's enough? We've got 3 chapters left in this course before the midterm. Does it seem fairly light?
With workplace health and safety, I think it's a really it should be common knowledge for a lot of people. So it's pretty easy and it's light. I think more concerned about the midterm and the final because we don't have quizzes. So it's hard to know like what kind of questions they're going to ask and what we should base it off of.
Okay, good question. So here's a suggestion for you. Looking at the course outline, we have completed the first 4 chapters, which means we're right on time. I personally am finding the course a little bit light for material, right? Because at least with project management, those discussion questions in the textbook, there's not a lot of discussion questions. So here's a suggestion for you, and I'll type this out. I find it's better if I type it out. So let me type this out. All right, let's finish the next 3 chapters within 2 weeks. Then the week before the midterm exam, I will do this is what I call it. You don't want to miss that class. And if you do miss that class, at least it'll be recorded. So I'll do a focused review. What I do with my focused reviews is this. I don't tell you which questions are on the test. I'm not allowed to do that. But this is what I am allowed to do. Let's say, for example, just to pick a number, there's 7 questions on the midterm exam, just to pick a nice simple number, right? I can't say by the way class, study these 7 things. But what I can do is this. I can tell you study these 10 things. So you get my hint, right? That's what I mean by focused review. 7 chapters, quite frankly, is way too much to study. What I will do is I will narrow it down for you. That's what I mean by focused. So, and we'll spend a week doing review, even though it's not built into the course outline like it is for project management. But project management only has 5 chapters. This one has 7. Do you think that would be helpful? Let's get through chapter 7, and then we'll spend 4 hours where I'll go through and give you hints.
Yeah, that'll be really helpful.
Yes?
Yes, I agree.
Okay. Because this is how I personally feel about this. I feel like it's being dragged out a little bit. And I'm not sure that you people are needing as much time in class. I said it's also different when there's 9. Because with 30 people, there's going to be more comments. And you people have done I was really concerned when I saw there was only 9 students. I thought, oh my God, this is going to be so painful that I'm going to have to do all the talking. But you people have really done, whether you talk more or you talk less, everybody, I think pretty much everybody has participated in the course, and that makes it so much better. But there's only 9 of you. So, or right now there's only 4 of you. So we go through material faster. Every time I've taught a small group, we go through the material faster because there's fewer questions. So to stop my long-winded answer, we're going through the material. I think we could speed it up just a little bit. Get 3 chapters done in 2 weeks, which I think would, I don't know what you would make me feel a bit more productive. And then we'll spend 4 hours basically studying together. And I will give you, I'll ask you questions and we'll talk about it. We'll study together. So it's like, I think that would probably be helpful for you. And if you can't attend, please listen to the recordings. Usually I tell students, you don't want to miss that class. Well, quite frankly, now you can, except you just won't be able to ask questions. All right. And by the way, I don't know what the normal process is, but whenever we get the midterm exam schedule, which has got to be coming out soon, I would think, we can also have a class that week to, if you've got some last minute questions or are unclear, we can meet as a class online. I'm fine with that. I don't have anything else to do that week except Well, I literally don't have anything else to do that week, at least for you guys. So I'll certainly do that. Usually when I've done that before, students quite like that too. Because sometimes I get this feeling, oh, there's this burning question I have, and it's tomorrow's the midterm exam, and how do I get a hold of him? And I just got to know. I won't be able to sleep tonight. All right. So, all right. I think that's a good plan, right?
Yep.
Okay. So.
Yep, sounds good to me.
All right. Oh, and one other thing. No, I'll leave it. I'll leave it for now. That's good. No, the thought that I had, and I don't want to, is the Wednesday class is only 1 hour. We'll deal with that later. Let's just leave everything as is. This is enough. We're going to do 3 chapters in 2 weeks, then have a review week, and then away we go. And let's knock this out of the park. Let's ace this. Ready?
Okay.
I'm done. If you have any questions, let me know. And I'll stay until all the questions are answered. And if you want me to turn off the recording, I can, in case you have a question for me that you don't want recorded. Otherwise, we'll see you on Tuesday. Have a nice weekend.
Okay. Have a good
Okay,
weekend.
see you.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
people.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Any questions, Chantel, or are you just listening in? Okay. Take care.